Hey, it's Ryan from Upfit Supply, and in this video we're going to be installing some Holman folding shelves in our RAM ProMaster. Let's get started. Okay, just a couple of quick notes. Number one, there is an illustrated installation manual for this particular product, so you're going to make sure that you reference those. We're going to be doing our best to be following those as well, but at the end of the day, the ultimate source of information is going to be that manual. Other thing is there's going to be a couple of differences for us when we're installing this because we have some wall liners in and a composite floor, so we're going to be using some spacers and things like that to accommodate these additions to our van. So just take that into consideration. Now we're going to do a little bit of prep as we get ready to install these shelves. So I put some cardboard here on our floor so I don't damage it. We're going to be preparing our uprights here first, attach a shelf, then we kind of set it in place and figure out where we're going to mount it, and then we do our mounting and so on. So to get started, we're going to take our outer uprights. These are going to be the wider channels. They're shorter ones too. And then we're just going to take our mounting feet. These mount to the feet of the van. And kind of in the same orientation, we're going to attach these to the feet. And the way that you do that is you're going to take one of these longer bolts with a washer through these holes into a nylon spacer. Just make sure you have the 1.25 inch spacer there, and then we're going into a lock nut here on this side. It's a flange lock nut in case you're interested. And again, same thing for our other side. And then I'm going to go ahead and tighten this up just a little bit. I want to make sure that I still have some rotation in there, so I'm not going to get it too tight. Next, we're going to actually attach our lower shelf. And so I actually have a 60-inch wide shelf here, but it's going to be the same for a 48-inch wide shelf as well. And so to figure out where we're going to mount this, you need to take some things into consideration. There are some kind of standard heights that are recommended in the installation manual. We have a wheel well here that we have to clear because we're going to be mounting it right here over the wheel well. And this is about 16 inches, and so to give me a little bit of clearance, I'm going to mount it 17 inches from the floor, or attempt to do that. So I'm going to measure out on our uprights here to figure out where that lower location should be. So as you're thinking about how to orient this, the inside of this channel faces towards the wall. So you're going to see this when you're looking at it. Now pre-assembled on these folding shelves is a nut and a nylon washer as well as a bolt there. And as I open this bolt, so that bottom mounting location is about flush with the bottom of that shelf. So we're safe to assume that if this is at 17 inches, we're going to be able to clear this. So I marked one of these sides right there for where our 17-inch mark is. So we're going to be going into that hole with our lower mount. Okay, now similar situation here on these top inner uprights. These are a little bit thinner, so we do have to use some additional spacers on these. Now we're going to be going into these top holes on the brackets. So the mounting bolt pattern is going to be a bolt, a washer. I'm going to go through this bracket here, then use one of these thin nylon spacers, then through the upright, then through our long nylon spacer, then through the other side, nylon spacer again, and then finally flanged lock nut. Same thing on this side. So now we're going to attach our top uprights and our lower uprights together, but to figure out where everything needs to be mounted, we're going to be mounting our uprights into this. There's a cross member that comes through here, and obviously our lower ones are going to be going into the floor. We're just going to get a rough measurement of how high this is going to be. So we're at about 60.5 inches, so we'll try and get that same dimension as we put these two together. So in order to get these low enough where I want to be, I actually got to take this bolt out of the top of the lower shelf. So now that I have enough room here, I'm going to temporarily attach these together just with a single bolt. Okay, now we're going to lean this up against the wall, figure out where we're going to be placing this to our locations. Pretty good right there. And we're just making sure that we're not twisted or anything like that. The shelf. So I'm actually going to line up with my D-ring over here because I can use that hole in that threading location, my D-ring bolt there, secure one of the feet, and that's just one less hole I have to drill and put a plus nut in. But other than that, I think we look pretty good. Just kind of want to check your measurements against the wall. Again, I'm just using a grease pen here. Do a dot. Down here, same thing for the feet. Same thing on this side. Now included in this kit, there are these black spacers that are used. Typically you'll use them on the floor, like if your one foot is on a rib and the other one isn't and you need to level them out. These are about a ½ an inch thick. We're actually gonna be using these because we're using a composite floor, it's plastic. It does have a tolerance where we need to leave a ⁄4 inch for expansion because it's a floating floor. So we need to drill a little bit bigger hole in our floor so we can use one of these spacers, have a ½ inch clearance around there. And we're gonna do a similar thing with these liners because we do want a metal to metal solid contact. We don't want to sandwich this liner, but we don't need to leave that same type of tolerance for the liner here. So we're going to drill basically this, I said ½ inch, these are 1 inch hole for this so that we can use these spacers behind our mounting locations. And so we'll drill those holes. Then we're going to put in our plus nuts just like you would if you didn't have liners or a floor in here, and go on from there. Now that we have our holes in our liners here for our spacers, as well as our holes in this cross member here, we're going to set our plus nuts just like you would if you didn't have liners. So I'll show you how to do that now. We're using a plus nut installer tool like this, but there's also one that you can use, a wrench, to compress these. Basically what this does, it's like this. Once you suck this together, it actually pinches on the sheet metal there and gives you a nice threaded mounting location for your shelving and all of that. So go ahead and put these in. So just to show you how this works with the liners, we have our plus nuts in there. We have an inch hole cut in them. We can take our 1 inch spacers, put them in there, and we're gonna go through our bracket into the spacer, into the plus nut, and secure it like that. The spacer just makes sure that we have a nice solid location because there is compression in here. It's just a honeycomb liner. So it's just, some installers will just sandwich the liner, but I like to use a spacer because it gives you a nice secure mounting location that isn't going to bend or flex over time and always going to keep your shelf nice and tight. Okay, similar situation over here. Again, we're going to be installing this in a floating floor, so we do need to put in a ⁄4 inch gap around where we're going to be mounting to the floor, and use a spacer. So I actually have to do a ⁄4 inch gap around my spacer, which is 1 inch, so I need to go to 1½ inch. So I'm doing a hole saw here, similar to what I do with the liners. Again, if you don't have a floor in here, you don't have to do it this way, but this is just the recommendation from the manufacturer of this floor. I'm just gonna line these up, make sure everything's still looking good, because if I screwed up on one side, I've always got potential to fix it on the other side. Still looking good. So now that we have our holes drilled and plus nuts set, we're actually going to attach our upper shelf to here first. You actually put all the shelves on first, then put it in place. And so we're going to actually detach these top and lower uprights from each other, which we had previously connected, so that we can make room for this next shelf. Now I have marked on here just in a grease pen where that lines up, so we know exactly where our heights are. But you cannot attach a shelf or remove a shelf when it's attached to the van. So you need to do this before you lift it into place. The next thing that you want to figure out is where you want to attach these shelves relative to the uprights. Traditionally, you're going to have them about 21 inches apart from each other. So about 21 inches from here is where we're going to do our next upright, in this kind of second hole above the this lower shelf. So we're gonna wanna line everything up first, then we're gonna put our upright back in place where it belongs, then we'll do all of our screws because your bolts go through both of these uprights together. In fact, these are all much easier to install when they're open. Okay, holding these two uprights together right now are just the bolts that are kind of going through both of them for these shelves, but we do want to use these longer screws in 2 locations to connect these 2 uprights together. So the bolting pattern for this is going to be the bolt, washer, through one side, then through this nylon, washer in the middle, then a washer and nut on the end. Okay, now I'm going to repeat the same process over on the other side. Okay, now that we have both shelves attached and our upright secure, I'm going to go ahead and lift this into place and secure it to the vehicle. Bolting pattern up here is bolt, lock washer, washer into your plus nuts. Okay, for a final step on installing these folding shelves on our wall, there's actually a mid-mount bracket that you want to use. On the ProMaster, there is a rail that goes along the middle right here that you're going to want to connect this to. Now, depending on how close you mount these feet to the wall, because we use this D-ring location over here, we had to come out a little bit further than we needed to, but you can get this close enough so that you can use this bracket for your mid-mount. We're just, a little bit shy where we need to be able to attach to that bracket. So the alternative method is to use this bracket and one of these metal straps to attach down here somewhere, and then, similarly attach to the folding shelf, and then you can trim this bracket if you need to. All right, there's our mid-mounting bracket right here. I ended up having to take out the D-ring, or not the D-ring, but the cargo ring that was over here on the wall, because, man, that lined up right with where I had to go with that bracket. So we're gonna do the same thing up over here on this side. All right, and that just about does it for the installation of these folding shelves in our RAM ProMaster. Now the final step is gonna be to make sure and tighten up all these bolts that we left sort of loose, and make sure that they're all nice and tight before you hit the road. Now, if you're looking for these shelves or any other equipment to get your van ready for work, be sure to check us out at upfitsupply.com. My name is Ryan, and have a good one.